silence means you're ready for me to begin. I know we're still waiting for a couple more people that I know are on their way. I'm Ramadana, and this is the, during this year we have a readers theater group called the Drama Mamas. But for this program, we have the Drama Mamas and the Papas. This program originated when the library turned 100, and it consisted of all historical pictures. And when they did all the murals, I said, we've got to update the program, and we've got to, put more together with it. And so that's where this program originated. And originally, I was going to do the process of the murals. But then I decided that the historical pictures fit more, and it was too muddy to do both. So therefore, you are seeing historical pictures and the murals, the finished murals. And I'd like to introduce our sponsor, Debbie Catcher, from Friends of the Library. We are indebted to the library and Friends of the Library for supporting our projects.
Ready for all you do, Donna?
Did you want to read everybody?
Sure. I just want to thank everyone for coming. Donna does so much for the theater group, the kids. She's very involved, and we really appreciate it. And we appreciate you coming out to see it. Thank you.
And now, Streator Still Struts, the story of Streator. Becky, can you see everybody?
I can.
Okay, just making sure that I had these arranged. Welcome to our production of Streator Still Struts,
the story of Streator through murals and milestones.
Today we present a tribute to the sesquicentennial of Streator.
And offer particular thanks to the Streatorland Historical Society for their permission to excerpt material from books and documents in their collection.
We also thank Richard O'Hara for his extensive research in his books America's Greatest Minstrel, Honey Boy Evans, and On Stage, Streator's Vaudeville and Minstrel Stars, as well as acting as an invaluable resource in the compilation of this material.
But first, let's travel back in time.
Before Streator,
Or Unionville, or even Hardscrabble existed.
to a time when the land was a vast prairie, an untouched vista, except for an ancient civilization.
The
Mississippian Mud People.
The Mississippian Mud People was a great civilization that stretched from the Ohio Valley to the plains of Nebraska. Like the great civilizations of the Aztecs and the Incas, this civilization became extinct. Why is still unknown. But the remains of one of their great cities can still be visited at Cahokia Mounds near St. Louis.
More is known about the great Illinois nation that roamed the prairies in the 1600s when Father Marquette and Joliet sailed up the Illinois River to found a mission in what is now Utica, Illinois. Later, the great explorer LaSalle claimed the land for the French and established a fort in St. Louis Canyon, which was later overrun by the Illini.
The following poem, Return of the Native, was written by LaSalle County historian and Ottawa teacher Robert Burns for a dramatic pageant depicting the background of the Starved Rock legend.
I am the spirit of the red man. From these rocks I have returned to bid you welcome, to tell you of my brothers, the children of the forest.
To our land of bountiful game, where the deer were many and the bison walked the trails, came a kindly priest in the moon, where the corn is in the milk, nearly 300 years ago. He raised his cross and murmured to his trapper friend Joliet as we unknowingly raised the bow. summers past.
I am the spirit of the red man. To these rocks I now return, and bid you live in peace.
In 1818, the territory of Illinois was granted statehood. The Indians were pushed west and north to Iowa as the wagon trains arrived.
Well, welcome, folks. I'm pleased to see so many of you could make it to this meeting about forming a wagon train going to the Illinois Territory. I can see you folks come from lots of different backgrounds and must have lots of reasons for thinking about moving west. I can tell you this, it's the land of opportunity. The forests are so thick and lush, there's plenty of game. Water in the Vermilion River is so deep and so fresh, so full of fish, they just leap out of the water and into your nets. The prairie has soil so rich, the grain grows like gold over the head of the tallest man.
And here's a song, Illinois, about the founding of our great state.
Way down upon the Wabash, such land was never known. If Adam had passed over it, that soil he'd surely own. He'd think it was the garden he played in as a boy, and straight pronounce it Eden in the state of Illinois.
Then move your family westward, good health you will enjoy, and rise to wealth and honor in the state of Illinois.
In 1831, George Bastora, a native of Virginia, settled in Bruce Township. This is the oldest recorded date of pioneers coming to the area. It is further recorded that the family supplied their simple wants from materials of their own raising. They made clothing of flax and wool, leather for footwear, and harness from hides tanned by themselves. Sugar and molasses from the maples on their farm, meat from their own stock. They ate the corn and grain from their own fields. And in their blacksmith shop, they made their own tools with which to repair their farm implements.
But life wasn't easy for these early pioneers. As Sarah A. Price from Ottawa recorded in her diary, the housewives lament in the 1800s.
One day I was walking, I heard a complaining, and saw an old woman the picture of gloom. She gazed at the mud on her doorstep, 'twas raining, and this was her song as she wielded her broom.
Oh, life is a toil and love is a trouble. Beauty will fade and riches will flee. Pleasures they dwindle and prices they double, and nothing is as I would wish it to be.
In March it is mud, it is slush. In December, the midsummer breezes are loaded with dust. In fall, the leaves litter. In muddy September, the wallpaper rots and the candlesticks rust. Last night in my dreams, I was stationed forever on a far little rock in the midst of the sea. My one chance of life was a ceaseless endeavor to sweep off the waves as they swept over me. Alas, 'twas no dream. Ahead I behold it. I see I am helpless, my fate to avert.
She lay down her broom, her apron she folded. She lay down and died and was buried in dirt.
About 1860, a number of miners began burrowing in the banks of the Vermilion River and drifting into the rich seam of coal that cropped out along the stream. To satisfy their wants, a small grocery was started in 1861 by John O'Neill, right on the riverbank.
The village was scattered along the bluff of the river and was called Hardscrabble, owing to the difficulty of climbing the hill from the river's ford.
The Civil War led to Streeter's second name, Unionville. Stories vary as to whether the name represented simply the community's devotion to the Northern cause,
Or whether it symbolized the accord of Democrats and Republicans as soon as the war actually broke out.
Maggie Campbell gives this picture of Unionville during the Civil War.
Why, they had bazaars and community meetings both at Otter Creek and Unionville, where they engaged in work similar to that being done by the Red Cross volunteers during the recent wars, picking lint and making bandages and underwear for the hospitals. Overholton Homes had a general store at Reading and later in Streator, but when the Vermilion was past 40, why, you couldn't get to Reading, and the road to Ottawa was nothing but mud and water, so supplies got quite limited. Why, a stage line was established between Ottawa and Unionville, and many times the passengers who paid to ride, why, they had to get out of the stage and get fence rails to help pry the stage out of the mud. I doubt that profanity was as common as now, although no prayers were said while the stage was getting pried out of the mud.
Emotions ran high in the days, weeks, and months following the South's attempt to pull away from the Union. Folks in Hardscrabble had renamed the town Unionville, and there was no shortage of men signing up to fight to preserve that Union.
But one family made history. In 1861, 3 members of the William H. Howe family enlisted in the 55th Illinois Volunteer Infantry. This included 10-year-old Lyston Druitt Howe, the youngest soldier on record in the Civil War who became a drummer boy.
His brother, Orion Perseus Howe, was 12 years old. He also became a drummer boy. He was wounded on May 19, 1863 at the Battle of Vicksburg. He remained out on the battlefield until he had reported to General Sherman the necessity of supplying cartridges for Colonel Malberg's troops. For this act of bravery, Orion was awarded the Medal of Honor.
As John Randolph, Tribune writer, reported,
It happened on Sherman's march to the sea. The boy, Lyston, was 13 years old and an experienced member of the Union Army. He had become separated from his company and was captured by a Confederate lieutenant.
I did not stay captive long. In the confusion, the lieutenant turned his back. I leapt on his horse and rode off, back to the 15th. I was wounded once, but heck, as General Sherman said,
War is war, and you can make nothing else of it.
I got out at 14, eventually joined the railroad and came to Streator as yardmaster of the Pekin line. Later, I entered the coal mining business and invented the coal washer. Jefferson Coal Company bought my patent. Finally, I became a hardware merchant and Bruce Township assessor.
Men who returned to Unionville after the Civil War found little change. When the town was platted on April 27, 1865, scarcely 6 square blocks were encompassed by its boundaries.
Main Street on the south,
Bloomington on the east,
Kent on the north,
And the river on the west.
In 1866, Colonel Ralph Plum came to Unionville at the age 50 to develop the Vermilion Coal Company mines for Dr. Worthy Streator, a physician and investor from Cleveland, Ohio. Plum already had a distinguished career that included serving in the Ohio legislature in the Civil War. Why, he describes his move to Unionville as an accident.
I had been mustered out of the Army at the close of the Civil War and was looking for an opening. I was traveling around Ohio, visiting friends, and railroad connections not being very good, I had to wait at the station for my train. As it happened, an old friend was waiting at the train at the same time.
Colonel Plum, what are you going to do?
I don't know.
You're just the kind of man we're looking for. My friends and I are interested in coal lands in Illinois, and we want you to go out there and develop.
I promptly accepted, and here I am. If I had not had to wait for the train, I would not have met Dr. Streator, and I would have never come here. So Unionville became a coal town, but life was hard.
Some people say a man is made out of mud. A poor man's made out of muscle and blood and skin and bone. A mind that's weak and a back that's strong.
You load 16 tons, and what do you get?
Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. Do 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 do.